Good morning again. This time I'm going into a subject which I gave actually to the saying that Kerala, a business-ready ecosystem. Now, just 1 minute. My notes are here, that's why, and unless I change the thing, automatically it goes off after 30 seconds, so I had to change that, that's why. So my apologies. So why did I select this subject? After all, the theme of the workshop is translational research and commercialization of technology. So why is it important to talk about the business ecosystem here? Actually, we were just having a conversation just now, and Professor Satyanarayan Chakravarti of IIT Madras was making a few observations, and which I was listening to with great attention. And so one of the things which he made he made many remarks, but two of those comments stuck, and which I want to share with you. One of those was, he said, the naturally entrepreneurial quality of Malayalis, that Malayalis are by nature entrepreneurial. Now, I'm not sure how many of you would agree with that. I agree with him about it, but I'm not sure how many of you, because most of us actually think we are not entrepreneurial. I don't know about Malabar area, but I am from the south part of the state. Down south, the greatest dream of parents was that അവരുടെ സന്താനങ്ങളിൽ പത്മനാഭൻ്റെ 10 കാശ് കിട്ടുന്ന ഒരു ജോലി കിട്ടണം. അതായത് എന്താണ് പത്മനാഭൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ വാസ് ദി ട്രാവൻകൂർ സർക്കാർ, അല്ലേ? ദി മഹാരാജാസ് ടൈറ്റിൽ വാസ് പത്മനാഭദാസ മാർത്താണ്ഡവർമ്മ സംതിങ്. സോ പത്മനാഭൻ്റെ 4 കാശ് കിട്ടുക ശമ്പളമായിട്ട്, അതായിരുന്നു ഏറ്റവും വലിയ. ദാറ്റ് വാസ് ദ ബിഗ്ഗസ്റ്റ് ഡ്രീം, വാസ് ഗവൺമെൻറ് സർവീസ്. സോ then is it correct to say that Malayalis are very entrepreneurial? Actually, he is absolutely correct. Malayalis are by nature very entrepreneurial. Then he made a second observation. Why is it that so many Malayalis go outside Kerala and succeed? And some of them say that if I go back to my state, it's all very difficult there. Conditions will not permit me to. So that's an interesting point which we should examine. So that's why we need to understand the business ecosystem of this place. Is this state, because we are all located here and we have to function here, we have to use the resources which are available here, we have to use especially the people who are available here and the rest of the business ecosystem. And is it such that it is conducive for business enterprise? So let me just ask you straight away. In your opinion, does Kerala have the business atmosphere and the ecosystem suitable for business and industry? What do you think? Or let me ask like this. How many of you think that Kerala has a very good ecosystem for business and industry? It is an excellent ecosystem for business. And all those who agree with that statement, please put up your hands. Five, six. So there are about 100 people in the room, 6 people raise their hands. So I need not ask the other question. That means most of you actually thinks that Kerala is not a good place for business and industry. For economic activity, it is not a very good place. Now that's very important to understand that statement, not to make you change your opinion, but to understand that statement, to think about it, to do some research about it. There are social science faculties even in this university, the social science, and there are, I believe, some students from the social science departments here. These are the kind of subjects into which you should do research. You should look at if there is a perception that Kerala is not good for business and enterprise, why is that perception there? Is it correct? If so, what are the reasons leading to this perception, and how can we change it? Because that's a very fundamental problem. If a Malayali thinks, or anybody here thinks, that if I have to succeed, I have to go outside this state, then you are it is like running a 100 meters race with one leg tied to the starting block. So how can you start running? You cannot even take the first step if your mindset is that nothing is going to work here. If you want anything to work, Valayar checkpost then everything will be all right. Nothing will work. If you have that mindset, then nothing is going to work. So I think we need to, this is what the social science departments in a university should be doing research on. These are the kind of problems to which you should find the answers. So you should go to businesses who are operating in Kerala, in Kozhikode, etc., and ask them, you seem to be operating all right. Aren't you affected by Attimari, Nokkukuli, Hartal, and all these wonderful things which you keep hearing about? There are some business people in Kerala, if they come for a seminar, they only talk about Attimari, Nokkukuli, and Hartal. I just want to tell you, see, I set up as a small startup, a company with a very small investment initially, using know-how which was developed in a national laboratory called Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute for Medical Science and Technology. Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute developed Vigasipichedutha Adhyathe technology was for blood bag manufacturing. Anna our technology I took it and managed to convince some financial institutions on, and we set up a small factory. So at that time, when venturing out on this, I remember there were some well-wishers of mine who were asking me, they said, Bala, you don't have any experience in industry. You're a 30-year-old ex-IAS officer who now you have come out and you are now planning to do something. You are taking an untried technology from a national lab. Untried. So there is no guarantee it's going to succeed. Anyway, what all of us knew then and also know today is most of the startups fail. The mortality rate of startups, not only in India, across the world is 1 in 10 of them or 2 in 10 or something will be still surviving at the end of 1 year. At the end of the first year, only 2 will be surviving. So when you already, your chance or probability of success is so low, why did you take this untried technology? Why didn't you go for some better? Okay. Now, as if all these disadvantages were not bad enough, you don't have business experience, you don't have money, you're not from a business family, and you have taken an untried technology, you have decided to locate the factory in Trivandrum district. What is wrong with you? Why did you do that? Now, I still went ahead, not because I knew I will succeed or anything. Let me not say. The only reason why I went ahead with it in Trivandrum district was, I think the only assumption which I made which proved to be correct, because all my other assumptions which I made were wrong. And I had to change. That's the other thing which life teaches you is, you have to be prepared to change your assumptions very, very fast. Because life will keep on teaching you very hard lessons and you have to learn very fast. So the only assumption which I made which was correct was, I felt that if I am located near the Chitra Tirunal Institute R&D Center, that will help me because I am going to run into many technical problems and I will have to go and consult them. I will have to get their engineers and scientists to come and look at and we'll have to work together. If my factory is located some 2 days journey somewhere else, I don't think it will work. That was my assumption. So my factory was only 15 minutes drive from Chitra Tirunal Institute. That was the one thing which I did correct. Okay. Now, other than that, I had no other experience in business. So, when all these well-wishers were telling me, this is the subject which I'm talking about, the business ecosystem. This is not the right place. I still went ahead because I thought, at least for one reason I felt it was the right place, is I'm near Chitra Tirunal Institute. All the rest, let us see. I will tackle the problems. You know what they say about the bumblebee? I think my distinguished friend Dr. Satyanarayan will know what I'm going to say. They say about the bumblebee, but according to the principles of physics and according to the knowledge generated by aeronautics, its design is all wrong. Its body to wingspan ratio and whatever, all those parameters are all supposed to be wrong. But the bumblebee flies. And they say probably the bumblebee flies because it does not know aeronautics, So, because aeronautics originally it will know that it is not supposed to fly. So in my case, I was so ignorant about industry that I did not know what everybody else knew, that you cannot run business in Kerala. അപ്പോൾ ആ ഒരു ഇഗ്നറൻസ് കൊണ്ട് പ്രോബബ്ലി അത് എൻ്റെ രണ്ടാമത്തെ ആസറ്റ് ആയിരുന്നു. That first was that I was located near Chitra Institute. The second asset was I was one of the few people in this state who did not know that you cannot run industry in Kerala. അപ്പോൾ അത് എൻ്റെ സെക്കൻഡ് സ്ട്രെങ്ത് ആയിരുന്നു. Now, so why is the business ecosystem important for some of you who are going to be engaged in translational research, some of you who may set up startup ventures of your own, and you may be thinking, if so, where should I set up this venture? So the ecosystem here is important, because if it is not conducive, then you will be already making your plan saying, I must book a plot, I have a friend in Hyderabad, or I have a friend in somewhere else, and then I'll go there. Because the fruits of our effort we need to know the ecosystem, because whatever know-how we develop is going to be used out there somewhere in the real world. That real world is going to be a physical location somewhere, whether it's Kerala or somewhere else. Now, as Dr. Satyanarayana said, in his very interesting observations he made about why he thinks Kerala is a good business and entrepreneurial ecosystem. So it is interesting that we have to hear a person from outside the state make this observation. Probably it may be true that only a person from outside the state will be able to see the positive points about this state. Now, he gave some reasons for it also, not just that Malayalis are smart and that they are very good with their hands and that they are skillful and knowledgeable and they are all literate, and not just that. He mentioned factors like Kerala's history of trade and entrepreneurship, Kerala's culture, Kerala's society. It's a multi-ethnic, multicultural society with a syncretic civilization where when we had people from different lands who came here not for conquest but for trade. That was a big difference between Kerala and North India, was this difference. And as a result, the harmony between different sections of society here is a model for the rest of the country. People from the rest of the country just cannot believe the fact that in a state like this, with such a sizable presence of what is called the minorities in the rest of the country, in this state nobody thinks of people as belonging to minorities or majority community or anything, isn't it? How come that happened? And so he says that is one of the strong points, because business is in many ways, business is a very delicate plant. Business, especially investment, not a local entrepreneurship, investment is a very delicate plant. It has to be very carefully nurtured. It's like a Totavadi. It cannot flourish in a inhospitable environment. Business is like that. So now the question comes, here is, many of us think Kerala is not a good ecosystem. Okay. People think that. And all of us know, all of us have at least one friend who faced some Attimari problem. And then we will exchange. Oh, no Kuguli, what is this? But most of these stories are hearsay. There are very few such stories. Most of these we would have read about or heard about or something. So I'm not going to spend any more time here to say how our company did not face any of these problems. Why? Was it that there was a GO, government order issued saying Terumo Penpal is exempted from Attimari, is exempted from Nokuguli? I mean, special order? No, nothing of the kind. No government can issue such an order, and no company has been issued such an order. So, when I look at these 50 companies which I am studying for as part of a project, and I just completed my next book, which Riaz was referring to, none of those promoters talk about, when I ask them, what are your problems? What are the problems which you faced? They talk about technical problems, they talk about marketing problems, they talk about finance problems, the same problems which entrepreneurs in Tamil Nadu, entrepreneurs in Hyderabad, entrepreneurs in Pune, Bombay, anywhere will talk about. These are the problems business people across the world face. None of them mentioned Attimari, Nokuguli and Hartal. Let me tell you another incident. I'm a storyteller, so in an occasion like this, because stories you will remember, but data and facts you may not. So I can give you all the data and facts later. I will send it to Professor Shahin, all the information, and he can share it with all of you. This limited time which I have, I want to use in telling some stories. Okay. So it's not because I don't have the facts. Or a facts vivirikanaite, it's a waste of your time and my time if I stand here and just tell you lots of facts. Those facts we can share by emails and I can send it all to you. So I want to just tell you a couple of stories. You may have heard about a BMW team visiting Kerala some years ago. I think palarum idu ketittundu this story. And what is the story? In a nutshell, it is BMW team was visiting different states to decide where to put their India manufacturing plant to make BMW cars. So the story is told like this. It's a very short story. Story endana 3 sentences. BMW team പറന്നിട്ട് തിരുവനന്തപുരത്ത് വന്ന് ഇറങ്ങി. അന്നൊരു ഹർത്താൽ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു തിരുവനന്തപുരത്ത്. BMW ടീം മടങ്ങി. അത്രയേ ഉള്ളൂ. Not a very long story. പക്ഷേ this story കേട്ടാൽ all of us will look at each other and say, see, one more case of ഇതാണ് കേരളം. എന്ത് ചെയ്യാനാ? ഒന്നും നടക്കില്ല. അല്ലേ? കണ്ടില്ലേ BMW? So, these 3 sentences will be meaningless to any person from any other part of the world because they may have so many questions. Why did the BMW team go back? But we Malayalis know, അല്ലേ? നമുക്കെല്ലാം അറിയാമല്ലോ, നമ്മൾ അത്ര വിവരമുള്ളവരല്ലേ. We know that they went back because of the hartal. So we put 2 and 2 together and come to the conclusion. Now, unfortunately, my friends, we don't know the full story. So let me tell you the full story because I happen to hear it from the horse's mouth. P.H. Kurian was the industry secretary in Trivandrum in Kerala government at that time. P.H. Kurian, after them, they had their meeting with the BMW team. Yes, it is a fact that the BMW team came to Kerala. It is a fact there was a hartal that day. But what is not told is it is a fact that the meeting happened between Government of Kerala and the BMW team. And according to the original schedule, the BMW team was supposed to leave that evening. Okay? So the BMW team told the industry secretary, please arrange a car for us. We want to drive from Trivandrum to Cochin. We want to go by that road. because we want to see Kerala. And they suggested also not just the NH, they want to go by MC Road to see the interiors of Kerala. And they said their flight out from Kerala was booked from Cochin. They said we did it deliberately because we want to see the place. So PH Kurian arranged 2-3 Innova cars or something was arranged, and the BMW team, they got into the cars and went. Then Kurian called up Jose Dominic, who was president of the Cochin Chamber of Commerce, and told him, please host a dinner for this BMW team and have some local businessmen of Cochin also present and have a conversation with them, and then see them off to the airport. So Jose called a few people in Brunton Boatyard, which is a well-known hotel in Fort Kochi, very expensive hotel. It belongs to Jose actually. So, and when they were having their drinks before dinner, Jose asked them, because he thought he should try to, he had heard the report about the Hartal in Trivandrum. So he told them, I hope you were not too worried about the Hartal. So the leader of the BMW delegation was a lady. She said, Hartal? Then he said, no, that day there was some strike. And so she said, oh, that. She said, so why should we be bothered about that? No, I mean, it's a terrible thing, Because that's what we think, Kerala, it's ഭയങ്കരമായിട്ടുള്ളൊരു കാര്യമല്ലേ ഹർത്താൽ. So it's this terrible thing and you must have been really upset. She said, Mr. Dominic, we are BMW. We are one of the world's largest automobile manufacturers. We have 100 factories in dozens of countries across the world. We have factories operating in countries which you cannot imagine the conditions. We operate in countries where if we send 50 trucks from the factory to the port, if 45 reach the port, we are happy. We operate in countries like that. In Kerala, we have no doubt that if we send 50 trucks from the factory to the port, 50 will reach the port. We have no doubt. Because we have done a lot of research, and then she took out a dossier which was about 200 pages thick. She said, this is the dossier we have about Kerala. This is the research we have done about your state. So there is very little we don't know about your state. And we find it is, in all parameters, it is the best developed state in India. In all parameters we can think of. And we drove through this central MC road because we just wanted to see for ourselves. The drive took us 5 hours from, so, when they say that, so you can imagine, it's just 200 kilometers, but it took 5 hours, okay? 5 hours from Trivandrum to, we drove through beautiful country. The road was good. We did not see a single beggar. We did not see a single destitute person lying on the roadside. We did not see a single person without footwear. Nobody. I challenge you, go out onto the road in Calicut and see whether you will find a single person without footwear. They said, we did not find a single person without footwear. Everybody looked. There was, people are using public transport, people are using. We did not find any cases of people pulling other people on rickshaws like you find in many other parts of India. We did not find human beings like beasts of burden. We did not find that. So we think this is a very good place. We would love to do business here. Unfortunately, for BMW to set up a factory, we need 1,000 acres of land near the port. Kochi Nagaram, Kochi Patanathine Patia, എന്തെങ്കിലും അറിയാവുന്നവർ വിചാരിക്കും 1,000 acres പോട്ടെ. Can anybody show me 1 acre of land which is vacant? So she said, basically for that reason, we know that we cannot set up a factory here in Kerala. That's all. This is the truth. അപ്പോൾ ഇതും ആദ്യത്തെയും കഥയും തമ്മിൽ എന്താണ് വ്യത്യാസം? BMW team വന്ന് ഇറങ്ങി, അന്നൊരു ഹർത്താൽ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു, BMW team മടങ്ങി. So what is the message? That nothing works here, no? Is there a difference between that story and this story? So which is the truth? So my point here is, the problem with, this is what's called the danger, there's a thing called the fallacy of the single narrative. ഏതെങ്കിലും ഒരു ആസ്പെക്റ്റ് എടുത്ത് അത് ഊതി വലുതാക്കി, and if it's like, see, if there is a professor in your college, and he is very tough about attendance, and he is absolutely, and he is very particular about time. And if you come in 30 seconds late, he says, I've already taken attendance, I've already closed the attendance book, I don't want to hear about വരുന്ന വഴിക്ക് ഒരു ആക്സിഡൻറ്റ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു, മറിച്ചത് രാമായണവും മഹാഭാരതവും ഒന്നും എനിക്ക് കേൾക്കണ്ട. I have closed the attendance book, the attendance process is over, you have no attendance for this, so you are free to sit here or you can go. Now if we just take that aspect of that professor and say, whatever you say about such professors, അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരാൾ മനുഷ്യനാണെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ, he might be the most outstanding professor who is teaching you. So if you take one aspect of that person's behavior and blow it up out of proportion and say, he is like that, and ignore all the other positive qualities, whose fault is it? Is it the professor's fault or is it your problem? You should change your spectacles then. No? You think the room is dark because you forgot to take off your dark glasses. കാറിൽ നിന്ന് ഇറങ്ങി വലിയ നല്ല മമ്മൂട്ടി സ്റ്റൈൽ ഡാർക്ക് ഗ്ലാസ് ഒക്കെ ഇട്ടുകൊണ്ട് വന്ന് ഇറങ്ങിയിട്ട് റൂമിൻ്റെ അകത്ത് കയറിയിട്ട് ഇതെന്താ ഭയങ്കര ഇരുട്ടാണല്ലോ, ലൈറ്റ് ഇട്, അത് ഇട്, മറ്റത് ഇട് എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട്, somebody who has the courage should tell him, സാറേ, take your dark glasses off and everything will look bright. അതുപോലെയാണ് this view, the way we look at things, it makes such a very big important difference. So in terms of the ecosystem, I will just sort of try and cut short here because there's a lot more to say. It's a very interesting subject because I was forced to study this subject and do some research of my own, because in every seminar which I went and told people that I don't agree with you, that I don't agree that Kerala is not a good ecosystem. I think Kerala is a very good ecosystem. They know why I am saying that. Because unlike many others, I have actually set up a business enterprise here. I set up a small business enterprise starting with 50 people, and in 20 years built it into the world's largest maker of blood bag systems, where we export to 58 countries across the world. ചില യൂറോപ്യൻ രാജ്യങ്ങളുടെ ഹെൽത്ത് കെയർ സർവീസിൻ്റെ ബ്ലഡ് ട്രാൻസ്ഫ്യൂഷൻ system depends on shipment going from this small plant in Vilappilshala. Not small plant, very big plant now. From that plant in Vilappilshala. So people tell me, Balagopal, I know you succeeded. So what they're saying is, they try to pay some compliment to me, saying that I must be some Superman or something. Minnal Murali, possessing superhuman powers. One exception, how can you prove that? So to answer that, I did research and I came up with, so I said I'm only going to study manufacturing companies. Only manufacturing, no tourism, no IT, no hospitality, no Ayurveda, all are success stories. There are hundreds of success stories in each of these sectors. I said, I am only going to study, investigate manufacturing. And after I reached 50 success stories, I stopped. Because my idea was to write a book. So I thought I've got enough, 50 success stories. Now, that is the story which I just want to end with. How many of you know which is Asia's largest dental prosthetics company? It's a company called Dent Care, located in Muvattupuzha. Anywhere in India, and also in parts of Southeast Asia, if a dentist takes an impression for a crown, there are very good chances that the crown is manufactured in Muvattupuzha and sent by courier back to them. 2,500 people work in that factory, which is India's biggest in vitro diagnostics test kits and instrument manufacturing company. This is a field dominated by giants, globally dominated by giants like Abbott and other companies. In India, it is a company called Agape Diagnostics Limited, located in a small rural panchayat called Pattimattam, which is just 45 minutes outside Ernakulam. I know about that because I was an independent director on the board of that. Thomas John, the founder, asked me to be his director for one term. I served on the board for one term. That company employs 800 people in 3 modern factories. And even during the COVID pandemic, they stepped up their manufacturing thing. They've taken know-how from Chitra Tirunal Institute to manufacture some equipment and test kits. Which is India's leading electronics hardware exporter, high-tech hardware exporter. People will think it definitely must be some company in Bangalore or Hosur or Chennai or something. It's a company called SF4 Technologies located at Kakinada, which does contract manufacturing for 2 giants in the world, GE and Philips of Holland. It manufactures, among other products, full manufacturing of ultrasound imaging systems which are shipped to final users of GE and Philips. Both are competitors, can you imagine? 2 global competitors are getting their same product manufactured in the same factory. So which should tell you what, not only about the technological expertise of that company, but its reputation for management, integrity and professionalism. Otherwise, you think 2 bitter competitors are going to allow their competing products to be made in the same factory. I have been to that factory. Just different floors, that's all. Top floor is Philips, bottom floor is GE. And GE and Philips are Six Sigma companies. You know what Six Sigma is, no? They will tolerate defects of less than 3 per million. That's their level of quality. And they have no problem of assigning this manufacture of this very sophisticated product to a company in Kakinada, which can ship to the final consumer without pre-inspection by these people. We have heard of rubber manufacturing. So whenever the picture of rubber manufacturing comes up in our minds, we think of rubber chappals, balloons, rubber band, and things like that. There's nothing wrong with those products. All kinds of products should be made. But there is a company called Vajra Rubber, located somewhere near Palakkad, between Palakkad and Thrissur, I don't know exactly where. Vajra Rubber manufactures the special rubber-based coating used on stealth submarines and stealth warships for the Indian Navy. This coating which Vajra Rubber makes enables these submarines and warships which are coated with it to escape detection by radar and by sonar and by other means, because it absorbs those things. Very high tech. How many of us have heard of this company, Vajra Rubber? A couple of hundred people work there. We think, for example, that there is no investment happening in India, in Kerala. We hear about global investor meet in Gujarat and global investor meet in other states where, if you add up all the global investor meets, promises made of the hundreds of thousands of crores, I'm surprised any money went to China. All the money seems to have come to a few of these states in India. They will make announcements. No such announcements have happened much, not on the same scale for Kerala. So what is the conclusion? That means nothing must be happening in Kerala. Now, if you take an example of any one of these companies, 50 companies which I've studied, say, let's start with my company. It had a balance sheet size of about 1 crore when I started. The gross block in plant and machinery must have been 40 lakhs or something. Today, that company's balance sheet is 300 or 400 crores. So how come in 20 years the balance sheet size goes from 50 lakhs to 200 crores? Money cannot happen, money cannot grow out of nothing. What does it mean? it means that much money was invested into this company. But by whom? By the company itself. It kept reinvesting its profits. But when I am reinvesting in expanding manufacturing in my own factory, will I put out a newspaper advertisement saying I have expanded my capacity? We have nothing to gain by getting any publicity from outside. In fact, one thing which I found common to all these 50 companies is they don't put out full-page advertisements saying, today we have got ISO 9000, and our politicians all grinning from year to year will be shown on the cover and cutting ribbons and this and that, and lots of speeches and all that made, and compliments from so-and-so, so-and-so. You will never find any of these 50 companies having advertised like that. They don't waste money. You know, it's very hard making money, and there are better uses for money than putting out these kind of advertisements. So they shun publicity. But my company over the last 20 years has invested about 200 crores. Nobody knew about it. Because we didn't inform. We didn't feel we had to inform anybody except our own board of directors. Synthite started by C.V. Jacob around the same time as my company. Synthite started with an investment of 5 lakhs. Today, the group turnover of the Synthite group is 2,500 crores. Synthite has it has many factories in Kerala and outside Kerala. It has 3 factories in China. It has 3 factories in China in the Xinjiang province, you know, the very controversial Xinjiang province, because a particular kind of chili grows maximum in Xinjiang province. The Chinese government said, why don't you put up the factory there? So Synthite happily put up the factory there. One of the partners of Synthite who stays below my apartment, he worked there. He was the head of those factories for 3 years. And so what I'm saying is, if you look at the balance sheet of Synthite, over these 20 years, starting with the 5 lakhs investment and today having a turnover of 2,500 crores, you know what the balance sheet size must be like of that company? How many hundreds of crores have been reinvested back by them into their own business, growing, setting up new factories, new capacities? So how can somebody say that there is no investment happening in Kerala? Only somebody who is ignorant about what is industrial investment and who has not been tracking this can make such a statement. There was a study by Forbes, you know, which is a business magazine in the West. Forbes brought out a study on the leading steel casting manufacturers in the world, and they listed 8 of the top steel casting makers in the world. There was only one company from India. Any guesses which is that company? PK Steels Private Limited. The only Indian company in steel casting. Is there steel raw material available in Kerala? If an industry has to come here, it must be something to do with some pepper or some spices or rubber or something which is locally available. Steel is not locally available, not locally made. But the most efficient steel casting maker, if you just look at the client list, their client list is the who's who of engineering giants of the world. Because the steel castings which they make are of such high, which are such demanding tolerances and demanding performance conditions, deep undersea pumps, etc. The housing is made by PK Steel Casting. That's located here. When Mr. Ahmed took over a SICK steel re-rolling, small closed steel re-rolling plant, I have talked to him about it. And he told me, I asked him, why did you take it over? Did you know anything about steel? He said, then I said, why on earth did you take that over? He felt sorry because the trade union people came and said, we don't have work. He heard that and he felt this way. Something about that. He just felt bad and thought, can we do something? He was not in the business of charity. Mr. Ahmed was a businessman. So what did he do? He decided, let's get into steel casting and see what happens. So he went and took over the SICK mill. 20 years later, it is the most efficient steel casting maker in India. How can that happen in a state where no business can work, no industry can work? Such a bad ecosystem that the businessman gets out of his house thinking in the Nokuguli in the Varanja Rakshasanano, Ado Attimari in the Varanja Rakshasiano, or somebody else is going to come and frighten me. So like this, the story, the fact that you cannot succeed in industry, the fact that no investment is happening here in industry, and that fact that these companies will not be able to grow to global scale if you are located in Kerala. As Dr. Satyanarayana said, some Malayalis think that if we have to succeed, we have to go outside Kerala. There is a perception like that. I'm not saying you're right, there is a perception. But if they could not grow to scale, they wouldn't have remained here. No? But all these people have grown to phenomenal scale here. Now if they start investing all over the world, it does not mean it's a vote against Kerala. Which company in the world puts all its money only in that same town where it originally started? That's not good business sense. Anybody who understands finance and de-risking knows what you will do is in the interests of de-risking your business, you will spread your risk. That is normal. A Chinese company, if it has 2 factories in China, will put up the 3rd factory in Mongolia or put up a factory in Uzbekistan. That's perfectly normal business behavior. Some say Tata has not, it may have started originally in Jamshedpur. You think all the Tata factories are in Jamshedpur? So if they set up a factory in Pune, does that mean Jamshedpur is a bad place? I mean, how are these narratives generated? But we think it is all normal. We fall for these false narratives in this state. So I want to just end by saying that I have just told in the series of some anecdotal accounts. I have all the data to support it, which will be coming out in my book. But even otherwise, anybody is interested, I can send it to Dr. Shahin, and Riaz and all know about it. So I'll send this. The information is all available there. Those who are from social science and from management faculties here, this is another area in which you should do a lot of research. Do case studies about these companies. Do case studies not only about successes, do case studies about the failures. See, if any company fails in Kerala, everybody says, we know why. Why that company failed, if it is in Kerala. How come? If you haven't seen the balance sheet of that company, if you don't know the promoters of the company, if you don't know the banker of the company, how do you know why that company failed in Kerala? Trade union, Changodi, something like that must be the reason. How come we don't say the hundreds of companies failing in Tamil Nadu every day? Does anybody say the same thing about that? You don't say. There it's treated okay. Businesses fail. But then why can't businesses fail here in Kerala too? So, I'll just end with, just to give some, it's very difficult to get, controlled experiments in industry, You can't do a controlled trial to show in identical conditions this company making the same product was set up in Kerala and it was set up also in Tamil Nadu, and then what happened to these 2 companies, and then say, therefore we can draw some conclusions.